Because it's a thought, right? JP Morgan launched their own marketplace. Is platform business the next big thing for, is that the transition banks will move into in future?
It,
Will they
it,
transform themselves?
it will definitely be a ecosystem play for sure,
Yeah.
right? Because you can't really be in this market in isolation because as people talking about sharing data, first party data, third party data, partnerships, everything, and it will be more around the digital ecosystem, right? Now there's
Yeah.
a problem with the platform based business, right? And I'll tell you what, right? Because any platform based business is essentially monopolistic in nature. you know
Mm,
it will,
yeah.
because your marginal cost gets lower and winner takes all kind of thing, maybe two players, duopolistic or monopolistic, who is a sector regulator cannot allow. Okay, so there will, that's why this regulation also will change and evolve over time, right? And hence what I see is an ecosystem play, which basically means that ability of all the players to hook onto each other's platform will be critical to stay afloat. Okay, and
Mm,
banks there has an advantage, and the advantage is exactly the trust factor that I was telling you, that unless you have trust, the customers will not allow the data and everything to be shared to the extent. Right now, the awareness around data is far less in the customer's mind. I mean, most of us
yeah,
probably don't know how much data we have given out for free in the outside world, right?
exactly.
And but with the the DPDP bill coming in India, which is quite strict, and that will be pushed. And GDPR obviously there in Europe, and what will slowly happen that customers will get more and more aware of
Yeah.
their data privacy rights and whom they give the data to. So they,
Yeah.
they don't have a problem in sharing the data as long as they trust you, right? And they know
Yeah.
for what purpose it is being used. And because you're trusting the bank with the money, right? And
Yeah.
what can a person do with your data? They can take away your money, right? At the worst. And the thing is, if you're trusting someone with your money, you'll be okay to share the data with them, right? And
Yeah.
that's where banks, I think, will have an advantage and will be a critical platform for this ecosystem that, in my mind, I'm right now living, right? That this ecosystem play, which will be there. And that's what I think that, yes, the banks will be like, platform-based business in a way, but not in the way that it currently exists, in the shape and form that currently exists, but
Yeah.
more as an ecosystem, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I see Puru raising his hand. Puru.
Yeah, I had a question for Avik again.
Sure.
Uh, what kind of, like you mentioned, banks have more data, they know the customer, and the customer trusts the bank with the money, they'll trust with the data.
Yeah.
So where do you see, like you'll have transaction data, but what kind
Yeah.
of data you see is missing in order to understand your customers? Like, and
Yeah.
also,
Yeah.
India being
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
heterogeneous,
Yeah. Yeah.
what kind of
So
challenges do you see to know your customer?
So I'll answer it, but you have to pardon me that I may get into the data and data science la la land, right? And
Sure.
I'm doing this for 22 years. I'm like, in love with it. Okay. There's no hiding from that fact. So
Yeah.
see the way I think that, and this experience was actually in China, and that prompted my move to come back to India, right? That in China, right, I was having this conversation with one of, I can't name them, one of the big players, in Shenzhen. I think probably that gives out the name anyway. And their analyst said, he just, I was grilling them because we're in discussion of a partnership. And, the after some point in time, the guy just stood up and he said, like, Avik, what do you want to know? I've got every dimension about 880 million working adults in China, right? Because it's such a big ecosystem. They have like everything from the malware protector of your phone to video games to your wallet to your loans to your financial data, your health, everything they have. And I think that's the ecosystem. And obviously, in China, is a different country. India, you can't do it like that. It will take you know much longer period of time. But in our setup, I think what I see is that data in terms of your locational information, in terms of your purchase behavior outside of banks, right? Your device based details, right? All that will be very important for the ecosystem. When I say ecosystem, it's not only the the banks or the players of the ecosystem, but also the regulator will be using it. For example, like frauds, right? Fraud is a big menace to the financial ecosystem. Moment all this technology you're talking about, end of the day, I'm trying to smoothen out the journeys and the experience for the customer, but also makes fraud easy, right? So there's always a flip side to that. And
Yeah.
hence, the regulators will also need more and more of this data in terms of your, locational information, where you're going, where you're spending time, what kind of network you actually belong to, in terms of your e-commerce spends, in terms of your, financial spends, in terms of, your network of family individuals, everything. I think probably they are in the ecosystem to be used and for the right purpose and with consent. I think
Yeah.
that's what I think the banks right now want, and the regulator also wants. So there'll be greater transparency, I think, in terms of data in the future. And
Yeah.
way I see this is probably, banks can be containerized, okay, because it's only the tech and the data and the insights, right, and container and spun up in that ecosystem, right, and data being continuously shared with the regulator so that there's complete transparency on that piece. That's where I see banks of the future. Probably we have I don't know 15 years to that kind of a state. But
Yeah.
yes, that's what I see. I think the younger generation were like probably 10 years old now, 15 years old. Uh, they probably will not see the bank in the shape that it exists today. Even like the new guys joining the workforce. I think I see an angst, and when they need to visit a branch, they really feel nervous, like, oh, I have to talk to a branch guy, I have to talk to a branch manager, I need to get this done. It's like they're like
Yeah.
really nervous about that fact. They don't want to talk to, like, oh, there is people, I have to talk to them. It's like, why can't I
Yeah.
just chat, why can't I just click something and get it done? That's the expectation. So if that's the consumer set that we'll be catering to, right, so obviously we have to completely transform, right,